Today, Robinhood officially closes its $200 million acquisition of Bitstamp, taking the platform beyond retail trading. Speaking at Bitcoin 2025, Hunter Horsley of Bitwise breaks down how a more crypto-friendly political backdrop in the U.S. is impacting his business. And Dave Ripley of Kraken explains the crypto regulations he's hoping Congress will pass. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Katie Tarasov. Crypto prices and the broader market moving higher this morning, fueled by strong gains in AI leader NVIDIA and as investors expect details on potential U.S. trade deals. As of noon Eastern, Bitcoin climbed more than 2% to the $106,000 level. Ether rose more than 3% to $2,600, and Solana's SOL token jumped nearly 6%. Okay, let's get a quick check of today's top stories. Robinhood officially closed its $200 million acquisition of Bitstamp, which expands the company's presence across Europe, the UK, and Asia. That deal, which was first announced last year, gives Robinhood an immediate international footprint, including more than 50 global crypto licenses and a ready-made institutional client base. It also brings new infrastructure for lending, staking, and crypto as a service.
Well, this acquisition delivers for Robinhood in three big ways. One, it accelerates Robinhood Crypto's international expansion. Two, it brings a globally scaled crypto exchange to Robinhood. And three, it really introduced to Robinhood the first institutional crypto business. And I think for these three reasons, it was a very good target for us. The acceleration will come from the 50 active licenses that they have globally, and it will bring customers from the EU, UK, and Asia, as well as the US to Robinhood. And two, Robinhood is a marketplace. We don't match order, but Bitstamp core spot exchange has a robust offering and a deep order book. And finally, the institutional expansion, I think, is a big step forward for Robinhood. Using Bitstamp already established position with a lot of big institution and big brand, we're going to be able to double down on their offering like crypto as a service.
Robinhood says it plans to keep Bitstamp's operations intact for now. As of around noon Eastern, Robinhood shares rose nearly 5%. As we continue our coverage of the biggest Bitcoin conference in the U.S., Crypto World's Talia Kaplan sat down with Bitwise CEO Hunter Horsley at the event. The two discussed Bitcoin's new record, crypto ETFs, and regulatory advancements for digital assets in the U.S.
Big developments for crypto recently. Here at Bitcoin 2025, I've been talking with a lot of the attendees, and everyone seems pretty excited about Bitcoin's new record high reached last week, just under $112,000. What are some of the factors that you think helped propel Bitcoin to that new all-time high?
2025 is a watershed year, and it's hard for a lot of people to imagine because Bitcoin's been around for so long now, for 16 years. They've heard about it, they're familiar with it. How could 2025 be any different? But nevertheless, it's absolutely the beginning of a new chapter for the space. Why is that? It's the thing that everyone is aware of. For the longest time in America, regulatory uncertainty has been an overhang that has prevented investors from feeling that they could engage, invest in Bitcoin, invest in this category, build services. And that has gone from a headwind, a 180 to a tailwind this year. The regulators, the White House, lawmakers have all flipped to constructive on this space. And for investors, that means it's finally an asset class that they can engage in. We're entering the mainstream era where mainstream investors can participate. For Bitwise, we manage about $12 billion in client assets. We have ETFs, we do separately managed accounts, hedge funds, Bitcoin yield solutions. We serve thousands of wealth management firms, institutions. In the first quarter of this year, 190 wealth firms invested in a Bitwise product for the first time ever. So we're seeing the response to the change in the regulatory environment, and I think that's flowing into some of the sentiment you hear at the conference today and this week.
Now, when you spoke with CNBC back in February, that was right after the inauguration, of course, you mentioned that Q1 was the best time for investors to put money into Bitcoin, and that was something that you were seeing with your client base. You just mentioned Q1. Is it too late now? Is it still a good time to put money into Bitcoin? What do you think?
Absolutely. No, I think that this year, this moment, of course, we're always monitoring the market, is really the best time for investors. Why is that? Because as an investor, your job is to take risks you have to take risks as an investor. There's no free lunch in investing. You have to take risks, and then you want to be compensated for those risks. And this year, for the first time, the biggest risk of the space has been removed. So the return potential is still there and immense, and you probably heard all sorts of Bitcoin price predictions and so on and so forth, but the risk has been substantially reduced. So you have that return potential, but finally this overhang and risk has moved away. And so I think a lot of the world is busy with other things. They're not focused every day on Bitcoin. And so they haven't gotten around yet to re-underwriting and engaging with the category, which means there's still an incredible opportunity for investors who do have that time or are willing to spend that time to take advantage of the risk reduction that's taken place this year and build a position in advance of the rest of the world figuring that out.
Now, another big development for crypto, you touched on this, regulation. Just last week, the Senate advanced the Genius Act stablecoin regulation bill on a bipartisan vote. More than 12 Democrats crossed party lines to vote yes. What does that signal to you? And does that give you hope we could see stablecoin regulation here in the US in the near future? And if that happens, could it pave the way for other crypto legislative priorities like market structure?
Yeah. I think one of the remarkable things at this conference, in fact, is how many politicians are here. Lawmakers, regulators, you had the vice president on stage, you had the David Sachs, the crypto czar, you've had a number of congresspeople and senators. I think that the reality of 2025 is that politicians want to do what their constituents want them to do, and they've realized that 100 million Americans want to see Bitcoin and crypto flourish in America. That doesn't mean they don't want regulations. It means they do want regulations. They want clear regulations. And so I think you're seeing politicians and lawmakers responding to that and saying, wait a minute, this is what my constituency wants, and I want my voters to be happy. I want new voters. So let's dig in here and figure out how to create those rules of the road. So you've seen so much already from the regulators. The lawmakers are in action. I think you will see these laws come to pass, like the Genius Act. And I think that the road is being paved right now for this to become a mainstream asset class.
And what would stablecoin regulation and crypto regulation mean for Bitwise? Would anything change?
It's a world of difference. Bitwise has been around for 7.5 years, and we've been serving clients for that time. These are institutions, financial advisors, family offices. So we've been through it with them for all of it. Last week, a federal bank manages $600 billion in their wealth management division, announced at their national summit that they'd approved our Bitcoin ETF and our Ethereum ETF. That's only possible because of this change to the regulatory environment. So for Bitwise, it's hugely important because our clients care about the regulatory environment, and many of them are regulated entities. So what do I think it means? I think it means that you're going to see, it's not going to be the old school Bitcoin anymore. You're going to see financial institutions, banks, technology companies, all building services, all launching products. And I think people are going to be really surprised.
Now, sticking with that regulatory advancement, your CIO, Matt Hogan, he actually said that progress on the stablecoin bill could pave the way for a multi-year bull market in crypto. He added that outside of the January 2024 approval of spot Bitcoin ETFs, this is the most important regulatory development in the history of crypto and may even be bigger. Do you agree with that assessment? How would you describe this all?
Absolutely. It's the biggest development. The ETFs were important. We launched a Bitcoin ETF, BITB, the Bitwise Bitcoin ETF, in January of last year.
Right.
And that was hugely impactful because it allowed investors to participate in the opportunity set with the peace of mind of doing it from their brokerage account, through their financial advisor. And we've seen huge uptake for the most successful ETFs in the history of ETFs. ETFs have been around for 30 years. And these Bitcoin ETFs, launched in 2024, have blown away all prior records. And ours today is several billion in assets. So it's been extraordinary. And I do think that was a big development. But ultimately, the bigger picture is the regulatory environment. For 6 years, we've run a survey of financial advisors, and we've asked them your views on crypto and what you're doing in crypto. And one of the questions was, what prevents you from engaging in the space? And the number one answer for 6 years, back to 2019, was regulatory uncertainty. So it is the number one item that has been limiting the ability of investors to participate in the space, and it is now no longer a problem. It's being resolved very quickly. The SEC has taken rapid measures. The OCC published a tweet 2 weeks ago letting banks know that they're welcome to launch crypto services. That's the bank regulator, the OCC. I mean, it's absolutely remarkable. So things don't change overnight. I don't mean to suggest that, by the end of June, the world will have changed. But I do think that the clear message that busy investors are absorbing right now is it's different now. Even though we've known about Bitcoin for a decade, something has changed this year. It is finally an addressable opportunity for us. So I would agree with Matt, who's very wise, and say I think this is maybe the most important development in a decade for Bitcoin.
All right, while in Vegas, Crypto World's Mackenzie Sigalos spoke with Dave Ripley, the CEO of Kraken. He also weighed in on the ongoing crypto regulation debates happening on Capitol Hill.
So we're here at Bitcoin 2025. We've seen several members of the White House descend on this conference. You're having conversations with people behind the scenes. What are they saying that they aren't saying on stage?
Well, a number of things. First, thanks for having me here. We've had a number of meetings so far this trip. Yes, on the policy side, absolutely. We have big and great things hopefully happening on the U.S. policy side with a number of bills that we want to get done in the very near future. The President said he's ready to sign these bills. We got to get them through Congress and hopefully signed by August is the target. On the flip side, I've also had conversations with a number of financial institutions, substantially kind of traditional financial services institutions that are looking to get into crypto, and we're having a lot of discussions with them on how we can help them pull that off.
So let's unpack both of those.
Yep.
First, policy. Senator Lummis saying on stage that we're headed for a cloture vote. That would be for the Genius Act, which is, and we've got the Stable Act over in the House. But you've been a part of not just advising lawmakers on this, but helping them craft the actual language in the legislation. My question to you is, one, how concerned are you about some of the recent roadblocks that we've hit with respect to Senate Democrats pushing back, saying, no, we need an amendment that would bar a sitting president and other senior officials from benefiting either directly or indirectly from a stablecoin related venture?
Yeah. I have heard about that one. I don't know how big of a sticking point that particular term is, but you're right. We got two bills. We have the stablecoin bill and what's called the market structure bill, which is a bigger, broader bill, basically regulates companies like Kraken in the broader crypto ecosystem. We're looking to get both of them done in August. Senator Haggerty is leading the charge with the Genius Act, which is effectively the stablecoin bill coming out of the Senate. Yeah, there are some discussions on provisions with respect to who individuals in government, how they can participate there, how they can participate in other parts of the crypto ecosystem. Another big point that is, I guess, contentious right now or being debated is the ability to offer yield on stable coins. We think it just makes sense. There is
because right now the yield that's being earned is really just going to the issuers themselves, whether it's Circle or Tether.
Right. It's fascinating. All of the crypto companies out there are a proponent of the bill allowing for the yield to be shared with the individual users. This is obviously our mindset, frankly the mindset of some of our peers as well. Hey, crypto is all about individuals. Let's bring the value to them. And that's a big part of what we think makes sense for the stablecoin bill.
Do you think that will happen?
Yeah, we expect that will be part of the legislation that, it's there in the bill now. We expect that to go forward. Like I said, the president's, actually communicating he's ready to sign these things. So we just got to get them through Congress.
And then with respect to the conversations you're having with institutional players in this space, it seems like even absent hard and fast rules from Capitol Hill, all of these rollbacks, either of guidance or provisions that barred banks from dealing in blockchain tech have been a substantial game changer.
Yeah.
We've seen changes from the SEC, the OCC, the FDIC, the Fed. I mean, you kind of go down the list of regulators, and the CFTC is about to have someone come in who's a pro-crypto venture capitalist. Talk to me about what that's opened up with respect to your business and what you're able to do.
So there's two things with all of it. I mean, you hit it really well. There's all these different regulators out there, and there's both kind of like the, implicit, or not implicit, but kind of like the less explicit actions that these regulators were taking go back, 18 months ago, 12 months ago, with choke point 2.0, putting pressure on banks, telling them that they're unable to offer anything in crypto. There was, of course, the explicit, which was, what was it, SAB 120, whatever.
Rolling back that accounting bulletin that prevented banks from essentially custodying cryptocurrency on their balance sheets.
And so we see that, plus they see the bills moving forward. And on top of that, it's just a positive environment now. The administration broadly supports crypto, wants to see the innovation happen, and wants to see it happen in the US. And so now all of these larger financial institutions are coming with a very supportive approach towards crypto, and they want to bring it into their offerings. Many of them, and I mean, these are the largest of the large financial institutions here in the United States, have basically, looked me in the eye and said, look, we're committed to get this done within the next year. We will bring Bitcoin and crypto to our customers, larger kind of consumer brokers, retail brokers, banks, very large banks are on this path right now. And so we think it's fantastic. At Kraken, we're looking to grow crypto adoption broadly to achieve this goal of financial freedom, and so we want everybody to adopt.
Any names that you can share, banks or institutions?
I mean, I think if you just kind of like go through that top 10 list, you'll probably get a bunch of hits there. Yeah.
On the flip side, thinking about TradFi colliding with crypto, you're also leaning into the TradFi side of the operation with X-Stock. So in the last month, we've seen this flurry of announcements with respect to what Kraken is doing in terms of offering access to public equity products. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, okay, so this is helpful. You're helping, let's back it up a little bit, because the broader thing that's going on right now that I see is convergence, right? And so it's a number of different things. Companies, all financial services firms will offer both crypto and traditional financial services products down the road, and the two will, in some instances, kind of blur together. Crypto will power some of the traditional financial services products. Tokenized equities is a perfect example of that. On the flip side, Kraken also now offers traditional equities. We're a registered FINRA broker-dealer offering traditional equities to US customers. The tokenized equities is a new offering that is more targeted towards people outside the United States.
And we just found out about that last week, so this is a very fresh announcement.
Yeah, so it's the tokenized equities, they'll ride on the Solana blockchain. We just announced it at an event that they had out on the East Coast. And we're super excited for this. Coming soon will be, really the frontier for crypto plus traditional financial services.
So I was talking to Vlad Tenev earlier this week, and he thinks that even if we don't see a market infrastructure bill passed into law this year, the SEC has the power to make it possible to tokenize public equities in the U.S. Is that a conversation you're also having with Paul Atkins?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. There's a number of different models out there, and I think there's going to be a whole host of different models where companies experiment's not the right word, but launch tokenized equities here in the United States, outside the United States, Europe as well. I was actually in Europe at a conference called Eurofee, which is basically a regulator conference, a bit different than this. All of the regulators there.
So fun?
Bit different. Not as many lights, right?
Not as much orange.
Yeah, exactly. And they all wanted to talk about tokenized equities. And so there will be a number of approaches, I think, that will kind of like work in sandboxes in very different parts of the world, approaches that will be very much built on crypto rails, others that will be maybe more targeted to people outside of specific Europe or Western world jurisdictions. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity out there for this to happen.
Okay, that's all for Crypto World today. We'll be back again tomorrow with the last of our conversations from Bitcoin 2025, including with Bitfarms CEO Ben Gagnon and Tether CEO Paolo Arduino. We look forward to seeing you then.